Hello and welcome all
Yay!
to this live chat. It is a match. Well, it's the press conference reaction, along with the Mighty Win in the background there. Hello, Mighty Win.
Hello, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm very well,
And
matey,
hello,
this
all
morning.
our lovely people who are watching. Hit those likes before you do anything else.
Indeed. So yes, welcome to the NUFC Talk TV and this live reaction to the press conference this morning that was taking place before the travel to Turf Moor. We're across all platforms. Don't forget, like Win said, hit the subscribe and like, because there's lots more content out there. And obviously, go and have a look. Go and search NUFC Talk TV. We've got lots of excellent writers in the background, giving it some great information as we get it. So let's go. Let's get on with
visit
this.
the website.
Exactly. So what did you think of this press conference this morning, mate?
Well, actually, he was a bit more forthcoming than what he normally is, wasn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
Normally he talks for 20 minutes and says absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. But he actually said a little bit this morning.
Yeah, it's weird when you say that, because I always look at Eddie, and like I said, I look at the psychological side of it as well, and I always think one, protection of the youngsters is his background. You can see that. Two, the protection of not giving too much away to the opposition, because again, we all, military backgrounds and stuff like that. Generals used to love to know a little bit more so they can sort out their troops. So I understand all of that focus, but what I can't understand is so a lot of the time is the repetition of the same question but said in a different way. Does that get on your gripe, or is that just me?
Yeah, I think with one or two notable exceptions, the quality of the questions that are asked at the press conference are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
They've got to protect. They're in it to make a living, so you can understand they're not going to say anything that's potentially going to get them prevented from asking questions in the future. If they want to say, why Sean Longstaff still playing his fucking crap, that's not going to go down well, and they're probably going to lose their invite to the party. But
Absolutely.
there are still surely ways that a respected, intelligent, experienced journalist could ask that question without answering, without asking the actual question. In much the same way as Eddie answers questions without ever answering the questions.
I agree,
and I would love to get in there and just ask
that's
him,
the question.
what is going on? Why
is going on? Absolutely. Do you not see what we see on a Saturday, Tuesday?
Exactly. A blind man on a garden horse can see it. Why can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But again,
there may be perfectly valid explanations for it that we are unaware of.
Unaware of.
But let's have them. Let's have those explanations.
But this is what I was trying to explain.
If he's not getting asked the hard questions, we're not going to get the chance to find out the proper answers.
Absolutely. And this is what I was trying to explain to the public yesterday, about how. And don't get me wrong, I've seen it myself. I've actually seen this in full effect. You can have a player that will go out Monday to Friday on the training field and perform fucking wonders, absolute wonders. He's like the next Messi, and you think, can't wait to start you on Saturday, and you never fucking see him. He never touches the ball, and you're like, what is it? Why can you do this with your peers Monday to Friday, but when it comes to actually match day, you hide? And this is what I'm saying. The only thing I can actually give Eddie some, I don't know, reasonable excuse is the fact that this kid must do something Monday to Friday on the training ground. He's got to produce somewhere, because he certainly ain't producing it on match days.
Yeah.
So before we go any further,
I mean, the obvious excuse is there's nobody else to put in. But what one of the things that's kind of annoyed me a bit is we've brought Joe White back from Crewe, where he was
Yeah.
having a very successful loan spell,
Yeah.
and he's virtually he hasn't been involved. He's had about 10 minutes over three-minute periods coming on at stupid o'clock in the morning. Why bring him back? I mean, we brought him back because we had this super injury crisis. We've still got it, and yet he hasn't thrown him in. Look what happened when he
Yeah.
threw Miley in the deep end. He
Yeah.
swam. Who's
Swam.
to say?
Absolutely.
Who's to say that Joe White won't do the same? But he's not getting a chance.
Absolutely.
So what was the
Yeah.
point of
Yeah. Well,
bringing him back?
again, it must be only what he can do on the training field and not on a Saturday. And what annoys me is the fact that obviously he's not getting changed or he's not swapping them out earlier on in the game. And this is what we were saying before about 60 minutes. That's the number where they look at where you've got minutes in the legs. But anyway, before we go any further, yeah, absolutely. Before we go any further, I'm just going to say, sorry, buddy. Before we go any further, I just want to send a massive thanks to the lads in the background, all the mods that do the massive work for us. And again, if you want to join the club, you can see NUFC Talk TV. If you want to become a member to win or have a chance of winning any further prizes, then have a look in the description below and please join. Anything that you can contribute towards the club just helps us grow and deliver better content in the future. So let's get on with the show. We are when you looked at the first thing I loved about the show this morning, about the press conference, was he's obviously got some type of feeling towards Burnley because of obviously his past with Burnley. He obviously knows the club really well. What do you think, having listened to him this morning, what did you think of his approach towards the Burnley game?
I cannot say that I honestly noticed that there was anything. I mean, for example, are you suggesting that he might go easy on them or
No,
something
not
like
at
that?
all. In actual fact, I think he thinks like a lot of us because of their setup. If you think of Vince Kompany's setup, it's a 4-4-2, which he's done virtually from the kickoff of the season. He's been very how can I put this? He's been accused of probably not being in with the times. And like the 4-4-2 now just don't work. He's had the full backing of the club and the chairman and everything else because obviously it's a results industry and he hasn't had the results. So people often say I'm a big sentimental type of guy, but I love it when ex-managers go back. And I look at Poch last night when I watched the game, the Spurs and Chelsea game. You know, to get one over your old rivals is always lovely. It's one in the bag, isn't it? But he's obviously very interested, and he said, like, it was positive the way Vincent Kompany has held his shape. He was positive that Burnley had their own identity, and they kept that identity. And the results are starting to show. Now, obviously, it's a bit late in the day, and they are still fighting for relegation. But they're not that far behind anymore. And he was pleased that the club had backed him to continue playing that way. Now, against Man U, you saw the identity. You saw the way they tried to dominate the width. Do you think that type of style is going to be a problem for all of us tomorrow?
Well, it's strange that Vincent Kompany has point blank refused to change the system and the way he plays, regardless of the way the results have gone. Remind you of someone?
Absolutely.
Because Eddie is the same.
Yeah.
He believes in that system and he ain't going to change it. Even though he must realize in his heart of hearts that unless you have the right personnel to carry out that system, it ain't going to work. And we went through a period this season when it wasn't working, because when we lost J7,
Mm.
our midfield was like non-existent, especially when
Yeah.
Bruno was on his final sort of warning, so he couldn't put the boot in anywhere.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
yet Eddie persisted with it. Now, the bottom line is, hell, we're in sixth place, man. Or potentially in sixth place, potentially, fifth even. And so, whether we like it or not, whatever he's done has worked, because you cannot tell me that we've had a bad season this season if we finish up 6th, 7th, or even 8th with the injuries that we've had this season, and with a Tonali back, and etc.
Absolutely. I think,
what we've achieved this season could be argued that, for all it hadn't been anywhere near as enjoyable as last season, you could argue that it's been equally as successful. I don't know. What are the folks think? If we were to finish, let's say, 7th this season, have we had a good season, bearing in mind, the adversities that we've had to overcome? I think we have. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, and it's from my aspect, it was like a case of, I've said from day one, when we looked at where we are in the league, if at Christmas, going through our really poor spell, somebody would have said to me that that's where you're going to end up in 6th, 7th, I'd have probably took his hand off. Even then, because we just hadn't been playing post the PSG game. I think psychologically it floored a lot of the players, a lot of the lads mentally had gone.
Well, I mean, I sound like a parrot, but it was those 10 games in December that did for it. Playing the same 12 players
same 12
for those 10 games. I'm sure that must have had a contributory effect to all the subsequent injuries that happened, and why we keep getting them, because the players were just overplayed, and playing the way Eddie wants to play, you're going to get knackered.
Absolutely, and that was my big gripe, if you like, because, like I keep saying to people, when you haven't got the right team around you, and you can't see an answer. I mean, you can see the problem, but when you can't see the answer, that's when you've got a problem. And I think the one thing that's evident from all this is Tonali being out, and he's limited on what he can do in midfield. J7 going as well. Obviously, that made it virtually impossible to manage, because there's only the amount of numbers that you got. We were overloaded at the back because we'd got loads of centre halves at the time. We weren't so good at the front because we'd got limits, but he'd got always Anthony Gordon to slip into the striker's role. We've always been light on the right side, and we'd always seem to be light on the left side, because obviously he failed to bring in Hall. And like I said, it's obviously something that he feels they've got to be mentally strong enough first before he will give them that slot. And they've also got to be on points, like I said, to earn the shirt. And he actually stated that today, didn't he? So the first obviously thing that we need to go on, mate.
Well, just because you're on about Tonali, which of course you commented on today, now that the ban's been set, which is a suspended suspension.
Yeah.
They said there, I think it's the right decision the FA have arrived at, and that the ban isn't extended. We're still supporting him and helping him through this time. He's conducted himself in a really positive way. I've seen the hunger to return there all the time. We've covered loads of aspects of his game to try and help him utilise the time in a positive way. So I mean, that's nothing to do with Burnley, obviously, but for next season, it's the old, like a new signing syndrome, and because it is effectively a new signing.
Yeah. And that's what it's going to feel like, isn't it? Come, when is it? The end of August he's back?
27th.
27th.
So he misses, I think he misses 3 games.
You know what I loved about it, though? Like you said, with the fact that he's held his hands up, and the fact that he literally said from the start, he'd been forthcoming and tried to support the FA in their investigation. And because of the way he felt for the club, the one thing that really got me, and again, this is this big soft bloke that you see in the background here, he's actually took a pay cut.
Yeah.
He took a pay cut to support the club because he can't play football for them.
Well,
That,
to be
to me-
fair, I don't necessarily think that would have been all his decision, mind.
To be fair, mate, they've got a contract. They can't take the money off you.
Yeah, that's
It has
true,
to-
but
It has to be a golden handshake, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Type of situation. But
no,
does that-
I think given, you know, if they had gone to a tribunal and said, look, we've signed a footballer here for 100, we're paying him 100 grand a week to play football, and he can't play football through actions of his own.
Yeah.
I think they would have had a pretty strong case.
But again, the contract states that you get a weekly amount, and that's what I said. I'd be really miffed if it was me and they took money off me. And from my point of view, it's a case of I just think it's a lovely sentiment. The fact that the lad has said, "I'll take a reduction in wages during the time of my suspension." I just think that just proves that he seems to be a really genuine guy, and I think that's what Eddie was actually talking about.
Hang on. I'm not having that.
Do you not think that?
Not
You're not having that?
not at all. Not for 1 second. The
Come on.
club have said to him and his agent, right, how do you want to play this? You know, we're going to go this way, or you can go that way. All right, yeah, I'll take the pay cut. You know, we'll leave you enough to buy a nice new house in Darras Hall and live a nice life, but you ain't getting no 100 grand a week, right? And he said, I think that's fair. I think that's fair enough, Eddie.
So you just don't think it's a nice sentiment?
This idea that out of the love of his heart for the Geordie nation, Sandro Tonali has given up, taking a pay cut. I think that's a bit for the fairies myself, like.
Oh, bless you. Well, you see, that's the difference between me and you, and I suppose it's the fact that, like, I always look on the nice side, you always look on the dark side, and that's what we got. That's the beauty of being football fans, isn't it? I look at the sentiment behind it. Anyway, the one downside, I suppose, that we need to talk about, Fab Shar.
Yeah. Hair share, not partial.
From the aspect of we were doing a chat about the Crystal Palace game, and I made a comment about, obviously he pulled up and he was grabbing the back of his leg up towards the halfway line. He went into a sliding challenge, stretching out a little bit, and straight away you heard the commentary guy say, "Oh, he's grabbing the back of his legs there. I hope that's nothing serious." So straight away in the back of my mind, I'd got this little niggle saying, "Well, surely he needs to come off. If he's actually giving you the pointer that he's rubbing the back of his leg, he's overstretched somewhat. Maybe some of the muscle fibers in the back of his leg has started to fray a little bit. And is there anything that we should be doing now? That, like you said, the game had gone at one point, and it was like you could see that when he started to make changes, but he never pulled him off. Do you think that was an opportunity missed in the current climate?
I think you could argue that's what's been going on all season. I mean, even in Sheffield, you could say he wasn't right. And it still took them 10, 15 minutes to get him off.
Yeah.
Crackers.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Eddie's doing his note because he had after the game, the press conference after the game on Saturday. Fabian's got a sore hamstring. And that he's pulled it out.
Yeah.
Now that's turned this morning. So Fabian will miss a period of time with a minor hamstring problem.
Yeah.
Doesn't say what the problem is. Probably a bit sore. He won't be available tomorrow. And I doubt we'll see him again this season.
No,
So
and that's the problem with hamstrings.
The first bit's a bit redundant, isn't it? If we're not going to see him this season, we definitely aren't going to see him tomorrow.
Tomorrow, exactly, and that's what I said. It seemed like a double-edged answer, if you like, because there was a point of it where he was like, "Yeah, he's got a bit of a mold. He's going to miss tomorrow's match," and that was all I was expecting because we want to give him time to heal. But then all of a sudden he comes in with, and he might miss the rest of the season, and I'm thinking, well,
we'll see him again this season.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, is that one of Eddie's tactics though? Because obviously he's been quite cagey all season, hasn't he? With some of his responses to some of the answers.
But on the bright side, in the centre back position, we're lighter than we'd like to be.
Yeah.
With Jamal, Sven, and now Fabian missing. But Emil came on and played really, really well last week.
Yeah.
Emil has played well in that central position this year, going back to Manchester United in the Carabao Cup, where I thought he was outstanding.
Outstanding.
I have no doubts over his qualities. So I think that tells you who's going to be centre back tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And from the aspect of when you look at him as a whole, you look at the position from my point of view, when he was talking about the free transfers towards the end, and they were talking about the centre halves that we'd been linked with. I think from my point of view now, I think he'd be crazy not to even look to try and plug that gap now. How do you feel about that?
Well, we've got to probably buy 2 centre halves.
I think 2's minimum.
I mean, Shar's not getting any younger anyway. Lascelles certainly won't get another contract when this year's extension that he just signed. When that's gone, he's away.
He's only got half a year left, hasn't he? Playing time, I mean, because obviously he's going to be injured for half of it.
Yeah, that's right. So we definitely need a couple. The good news is, of course, that there's some very good centre backs who are available on frees in the summer.
On frees, yeah. But the unfortunate thing about that is there's not just us going for them, according to
but
reports.
think about it. We should be able to offer. We should be able to match anybody for wages.
Yeah,
and where do you want to go? If they don't want to come, fine. We don't want them anyway.
Yeah.
But absolutely. I would think if you are a Premiership footballer and you've got a choice of various destinations, there's not many. I wouldn't have thought that. Although I haven't said that, of course, Ronnie's got a comment in the thing there. That last at the end, asking if it's hard to persuade players to live in Newcastle was a silly question. You're not wrong there. But she's a numpty man, Ron. I'm sure she's a Mackham. What the hell has that got to do with today's press conference, Burnley? Just regurgitating this old nonsense that people won't come to live in Newcastle because it's a dump.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody's got this thing, haven't they, about the Northeast and it being like Middle Earth, if you like, and it's and it's not. The place has changed massively I mean, I left in 1987 fully, and the time that I keep going back, and like I say, I used to look at like Whitley Bay as, because obviously I live just outside, and that's where I come from, just outside Whitley Bay. And I look at that promenade and where the Spanish City used to be. That's all changed. And
still is.
Actual, it's the actual place itself to me, it still has that feel of being home. Every time I go, saying that, every time I go north of Scotch Corner, I have that warm feeling in my tummy, thinking I'm back, you know. But it is funny how how people from this, especially south of Scotch Corner, feel that, like I say, it is as if you're going into the Middle Earth. I'm just going to hit a couple of comments that I've highlighted up at the top, if I can, matey. And it was, where are you? Harmeet Singh. So we need European football for next season. If we need to keep Isaac and Bruno. Now, to be fair, if we could finish 7th, there's no guarantee of Europe if we finish in 7th. If we finish in 6th, I believe if Manchester United go on to go better things,
Well,
we still
six
don't
guarantees
get Europe. Well, it doesn't, does it? If Man U win the FA Cup,
no, it still guarantees Europe. It doesn't guarantee Europa League. Guarantees Conference League.
does it? But I thought United get that slot. Then
They get the Europa League slot.
they get the Europa, and we just jump into the conference. Then, so we get demoted.
And the FA Cup winners get the Europa slot.
Yeah.
6th place and the League Cup winners get the conference slot. Well, Liverpool have already won the Carabao, so they are in, and they are in the Champions League. So that their place in the conference goes to 7th place.
Got you.
So the only way you can finish 7th and not be in Europe this year is if Man United finish 8th. Because then if Man United finish 8th but win the FA Cup, they go into the Europa League, and the teams that are 5th and 6th go into the conference.
Got you. So is the issue with Fabian Shar, we believe he's going to put Kraft in there. We believe he's
hang on to go back to your who was the one that said Harmeet Singh.
Yeah, Harmeet Singh said about the finishing 6th.
Yeah.
We need to finish 6th or 7th.
Yeah, ideally 6th, because that guarantees you over want Man City to win the FA Cup. But if we don't make Europe, Harmeet is saying that Isaac and Bruno will definitely leave the club. Yeah. I don't believe that.
Neither do I.
I don't believe that. I think even if we just missed out on Europe, they are both bright enough to understand, and they both know the area now. They both love the area. Yeah. Pierre Viking doesn't want to live anywhere near me. Not surprisingly.
That's only because you drink all his beer.
They both love the area. They both love the fans. And I think they would be prepared to give it another season.
I totally agree.
In the knowledge that next season it's almost guaranteed. We cannot possibly have the sort of bad luck with injuries that we've had this season again.
Well, it's like I said.
So, Harmeet, sorry, mate, I think you're wrong. What? I think even if we don't get European football,
I think you're right.
That wouldn't be the decisive factor. Now then, even if we do get European football, I don't necessarily think that means we're definitely going to keep Bruno.
No,
because he's got a buyout clause, and if somebody comes in with a buyout money,
but that runs out in June, doesn't it?
He can go. Yeah, but it's something to do with if interest is registered or something
before the end of June.
Before the window, obviously you can't move until 1st of July. 1st of July. No.
Yeah.
July. What's the window? Is the window of July?
It is, isn't it? No, it's if you're open for talks, aren't you, from the 1st of July? But I don't think you can obviously sign anything until the 1st of August, until the 1st of
Well, I
September.
think if your contract's due up on the 30th of June, you're allowed to talk to anybody
Yeah.
even before that.
Yeah, yeah. If your contract's up, yeah. But I'm saying, like,
But
he's
I just think that iconic photograph that's there now with Bruno with that
yeah.
flag in his hand. I cannot see him going anywhere. I love
I
that,
totally
by the
agree.
way.
And me,
Absolutely loved it.
that lad's got some, like I said, some passion, and where I was talking about yesterday about this togetherness, and it's not just togetherness with obviously the team; it's that togetherness with the actual 50,000 within the stadium. I looked at the positive conversation that we were talking about, and I looked at the inclusion of J7, Miggy, and Nick Pope in the training this week. Regarding J7, I know obviously he's saying that he's doing all the bits and pieces, and I think Nick Pope obviously also comes into that that conversation. It'll be confidence. It'll be whether he gets. I don't think Nick Pope will get on the bench this week.
I want to see him diving around. I want to see pictures of it on the training field, diving around, diving to feet, all that
Yeah,
sort of stuff. What he actually
I
said
think
was, we've had Miggy and Joe Linton return this week, their first steps back into full team training. We've also seen Nick Pope as well, so it's been a good week. It's certainly given us a big lift. We'll see after today if they're available for Burnley.
yeah.
I've
I
got to
don't know
make
whether
the
that
right
literally
decisions
is just
individually and for the team.
yeah.
What was that, sorry?
It's like puffing smoke, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is he just putting that out there for the opposition, or is that literally just to get the
well,
fans? You know,
I mean, if there was any hope at all of it happening, Nick Pope would probably know nowhere better than to make his return appearance at
debut.
Turf Moor.
Absolutely, that's exactly right, and that's what I was thinking. Is he just going to be? Is it a step? Is it a week too soon? Do you think? For me, I say
Well,
yes.
he says we'll see after today if they're available for Burnley. So he's not ruling them out, but equally he's not
No, he's not putting
typical
them in.
Eddie, saying nothing.
All year round, yeah, all season round. He also went on. I mean, like I said, I was so, I suppose, disappointed in Trips not being available this game, because it's lovely to see that bench grow, and I think that's been missing since December, really, hasn't it? When you look back
Yeah.
on that bench to see how you can change things and freshen things up, and I do think that when obviously he said that Trips is still out in Dubai doing the training. It's what we were discussing the other day about when people started to panic and seeing him having this flight. Everybody thought he was on the out the back door.
We are a jolly, but Kieran hasn't trained with the group this week. He's been away training by himself with our physiotherapist. We anticipate he'll be back next week to train, hopefully. He could be involved before the end of the season.
And again, it's that big question mark, isn't it? Because there's nothing guaranteed with
would
any injury.
anticipate.
Yeah, absolutely. There is
not a certain word amongst them all.
No, but that's what I keep saying to people. When people say, and I think this is where we've got to stop as supporters, and I try and tell this out to everybody. We've got to stop this this thought process of when you hear the next game. I think you should always listen to the could before it, because nobody in the medical world has the magic crystal ball that can tell you for definite when it's going to be. If there's any type of reaction, and I think it all comes down to what happened with Botman. When Botman had that issue with his ACL at the start, and everybody was saying, well, there's obviously can't be anything wrong with him because he's still playing. It's the feedback you get from the injury. And I think if you've got anything that's coming back from that injury to society, like I said to you before, about swelling, about pain, about movement, lateral movement, where the actual joint itself is unstable, then you'd pull him out straight away. Any medical team would pull you out straight away. And it's exactly the same as what's happened to Shar. Shar hasn't got a tear; he's got a strain, a hamstring strain. So it's a minor, but it's enough to keep you out for 6 weeks, as daft as it looks. And that's why they're saying now that you're not going to see Shar again for the rest of the season. Now, from that aspect, with the lads coming back, the likes of J7, who's had a tear, had it repaired. Now, in the industry, a lot of consultants, surgeons would come back to you and say the repair, once it's been tied, is stronger than the actual ligament itself. But again, what you've also got to take on board with that is the confidence to first getting stuck into a challenge. Now, the one thing you find in midfield is you're going to have to get stuck into a challenge somewhere along the game. So when do you introduce him? And that's the big question, isn't it?
Interesting comment there from Mighty Mag as well. If we don't get Europe this season, it could be a blessing. No distraction for the league next season. In a way, yes, because we saw what Tottenham have done this season on the back of no Europe, what Villa have done this season on the back of no Europe last season, how they've progressed. But what you're losing then is the mentality of playing those 2 games a week on a consistent, regular basis. Yeah. So I think if you don't get Europe, you're losing out on all of that, mindset of having to be ready to go to it, and you're also then not going to force, if you like, Eddie to rotate, and it's if Eddie has got one failing, it's his reluctance to rotate, which we saw again during the, again, I mean, I don't blame Eddie for that at all, because he had, as far as I was concerned, he didn't have any choices. But I still think Europe's a must. We've got to get Europe.
But again,
and I would love the Conference League, because the Conference League will take with the places that, especially with the teams that are looking likely to go in. I've never heard of half of them, but I'd love to go to Estonia or to Latvia.
Yeah, some of these little places that you never visit.
That's right.
I totally agree. I think it'd be amazing for a lot of the guys, to be fair, buddy. Derek Outings, I don't think they will have to leave, and this will be going back to, obviously, the big guns. When he looks at Isaac and things like that, if we don't get into Europe, I don't think they will. But I do think, unfortunately, what we've got now is a lot of players that are in the shop window because of the way they've played in a pretty average season to a lot of people, I suppose. Even though I still think with what we've got, it's a bloody good season. To a lot of people out there, they see this as an average season. Yeah. And like I said, with what we've got, there's a lot of players around these 4 players, if you like, if you count the big 4, because we can't really count Tonali anymore because he's not been with us. I can't wait to see that lad next year. He excites me for next year, if I'm honest. So I think, like, and you've already said about this one. I think he owes the club quite a lot for the support that the club showed him.
Yeah. And Josh Tunami Philly is saying there he felt after his comments that Mickey and Joe will be on the bench tomorrow. Well, that would be lovely to see, I've got to say.
I definitely think Miggy will be there because
we'll
see
after,
the hard yards.
We'll see after today if they're available for Burnley. That was on all 3, Pope, Joey Linton and Miggy.
Yeah. Something tells me that I can't see Pope or J7. Maybe for Man U, and I think that's what the preparation will be, because he will probably see.
I think that's the plan. I think make sure that they're all fit for Man U. That's the big game
for Man U,
as we all know.
Because there's still a lot of hard yards to do. I know these guys have been working hard, and it is to come back from any ligament repair. as much as it's physical. It's the mental side of it as well. But like I said, the lucky thing about it is J7 didn't have a full rupture. When
hang
you
on.
go on,
Incoming.
where are we?
Neil Powell there. The praise of Dubs was mad. Because then he said that Pope will have to fight his fight to get back into the team. He walks back in and says, Neil, I don't agree at all. At all. Dubs has taken a whole load of flack that's undeserved, in my opinion. You know, if you look at all the goals that Dubs has conceded, you can count on, well, 2 fingers how many were actually his fault.
Listen, any team, and I'm talking about the likes of Man City, and the top 3 big teams, if you like, Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. You're blessed to have 2 decent keepers. You are really blessed, especially the likes of Man City. So for us to have the likes of Dubravka to fall back on, to me, is a total godsend. And as Win has just said, I don't think, apart from maybe when you take a player, especially a player in that position as a goalkeeper, you change the togetherness of the team. You change the mindset of the team. And I agree and disagree when people say, he doesn't command his box. He doesn't show a little bit of.
It's the rooted to his line that gets me. They just follow the narrative. Everybody's saying he's rooted to it. He's not rooted to his line at all. You can watch every game. The trouble is, when you're watching it on the telly, you only see what's in shot.
Yeah.
So when the ball, for example, is on the halfway line or going into our opposition's half, you don't see what Dubs is doing.
No.
And I posted, I watched a Bournemouth fan review of the Bournemouth game.
Yeah.
And they had some footage that they'd taken themselves from the gods in level 7 in the away end.
Yeah.
And we were attacking. Dubs was almost on the centre circle. But if you were watching the footage on the television, you wouldn't have seen that he was almost on the centre circle, which was allowing our midfield to push up.
Yeah.
And everybody just, somebody said it somewhere down the line, and now everybody believes it. If you go to the game and watch, he comes off his line and out of his box and to the edge of his box every bit as much as Pope ever did.
Yeah.
What he hasn't got is the confidence of the back 5. Bear in mind that our back 5 last season, which was the best defence in the league, was virtually unchanged all season.
All season, absolutely.
It was the same
and
back
that's exactly what I just said.
That was, by the way, that was with my man BDB at left back.
Yeah.
Where everybody's criticising him, saying he gets skinned left, right, and centre. No, he doesn't.
No,
he gets skinned a couple of times a game, which any good winger will skin a fullback once or twice a game. So this idea that Dubs is rooted to his line and he's nowhere near the keeper that Pope. I tell you what, his distribution's better than Pope. For me, his reaction saves are every bit as good as Pope. What he can't seem to command is the confidence in the defense. Now that's not his fault.
No, me and you had a discussion about this the other day. Yeah, the one thing that gets me, and I said about positioning, and you was like, "Oh, I'm not sure about that," and it wasn't again what you were saying about. For me, it is about that. That's why I said I agree and disagree, because there's times where he comes to claim the ball from a set piece across or something like that, but then stops. And I think that gives the back line that's defending a bit of confusion. And that's why I say sometimes I think he could be a little bit more positive when he's coming to claim balls. I've never seen a problem when he's got the ball, but sometimes he makes that choice to come and then just backs away. And I think that's where we get a little bit of confusion. But you're absolutely
Well,
right.
I'm not saying that's never happened, but it's not something that I've noticed at all.
Yeah.
But it's probably something that if it happens, I don't know, if it happens once a game for the sake of argument, all the critics will notice that immediately and jump on it, and they'll not notice the other time when he comes out and claims the ball.
And grabs it. Absolutely. And that's what I said. It's not something that you could say. Trust me, I'd have Dubs over Onana. How about that?
Yeah,
because when you look at you know what I mean? When you look at yes, this guy can distribute with his feet, but I want a keeper that can hold that can save a ball first.
Right.
I don't see anything in Onana whatsoever that everybody else does, to be fair. A big shout out to Josh over in Philly for renewing that member, mate. Well done. I'll see you tomorrow probably on the pre-match. Exactly. So yeah, going back to the press conference, there was obviously talk about the final few games and what he thought about the last few games and whether he'd be satisfied to finish where we are now. How's your feelings on that?
Well, he said, we know we're going to have to win games to qualify for Europe, and we know it's going to be tight. We're up against top quality teams, and Chelsea are in a good vein of form too. So I think it will go right to the wire. Well, I think it will. The reason it'll go right to the wire is because we don't play Man U until the penultimate game of the season. So, and that, that's effectively the decider. Unless both us and Man U drop loads of points.
Yeah.
Chelsea going to have to win every game, and I kind of see them doing that.
Yeah.
But we did the running up. Let's have a quick look here. Can't think off the top of my head.
I'm just going to answer Tony T because he didn't come in till quite late into the chat. So yeah, Shaw's got a hamstring issue that, to be fair, you saw happen against Sheffield when he come off, but obviously you saw the event that took place against Crystal Palace where he actually started to, after the challenge, he started to hold the back of his leg, and I think that's probably where the fibers started to tear. So he's out for the rest of the season, and that's just the way we are, matey. I hope that clears that up for you.
So Chelsea, they've got West Ham at home on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They're no pushovers.
No.
Then they've got Forest away the following Saturday.
Yeah.
Forest fighting for their lives, half decent. Then they've got Brighton away.
Yeah.
Brighton, who themselves, you could argue they're out of it now, but if Brighton win their next 3 games, they'd be right back into it. And then they've got Bournemouth at home to finish off with. And Bournemouth, as we know, are really on the improve, and they could give them a game. So there's no certainty that Chelsea are going to get 12 points there.
No, I mean, there's no. I mean, I watched the game last night, and yes, they played well, and they did beat Spurs. But I think you've got two.
But
you've got a two-way street.
Look at the game last night. Spurs had 72% possession. They had twice as many shots and 3 times as many shots on target.
Yeah,
as Chelsea did.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I said. Possession is 9/10 of the law. And unless you hit the onion sack, it means absolutely diddly squat, doesn't it?
Well, that witness us against Wolves.
Wolves, yeah.
3-0 with 27% possession. And who was the other
same
one?
as Tottenham. When we played Tottenham, they had some silly possession. Yeah. And that's the other thing, isn't it? Like I said, unless you hit the onion sack, and that's the way I often say to people, the likes of Isaac, whacking in the big time in the shop window now, because obviously he's scoring 19 goals in any season is great, but potentially could come out with a gold boot this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Absolutely, and that's a massive plus side for us as a club, isn't it? You know, when you look at it from that point of view, to have a top. I always say, if you've got a striker in the top 3 in the division, you've got a chance to win things. Because at the end of the day, like I said, you can have the best midfield in the world, but unless you hit the onion sack and score goals, it means nothing.
We've got a whole new argument going on right there in the background about Dubs and Pope.
I know, but again, you know, you've got to think about, you know, yeah, I understand getting into the Europe is always going to attract the players. I mean, because everybody wants to play Champions Leagues, and that's, you know, you've listened to Bruno say in the past about playing in the Champions Leagues, and he wants to play there again. That's you know, that's not something that's hidden. That's obvious. And I think if you ask every single player in the Newcastle side, they will miss that feeling of Champions League next season. It's absolutely obvious that that's going to happen. Yeah, because it is so special. Excuse me.
Until you get it year after year after year after year, and then it's not so special.
But I still think we are a team of improving players, and we've said that. Don't forget, we've still got half a team of the Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce era.
Yeah.
And until we start moving that out, because I think, like we were saying before about, you know, Longstaff and everything else, as the game overtook them, and I think it has to a degree. I think they're great in the background and they can support the team for those cup matches that you want to start moving things around and giving people a rest. That's great. But we need probably another 2-3 transfer windows before we could say we've got a team.
But I think what we've got to do is bite the bullet and get rid of all the deadwood now. Sentiment out the window. If we think that there's a player there who isn't going to be able to cope with the next level, and we can all name them, we need to get shot. Bite the bullet, whatever it takes to pay that contracts off, clear the way so we can then get some proper players in. You know, we're talking the other night about the likes of Gallagher. Now, I would have Gallagher in a heartbeat, but I don't think he would be part of our first 11 midfield 3, because I think Tonali, Joey Linton and Bruno are going to be our main. For every big game, they'll be playing. But we need to rotate and we need to have quality players like Gallagher to come in and do a job, because we are going to get some injuries next season.
Absolutely.
And then we've got Anderson, Willock, Miley. You know, that's 7 players for 3 positions who you wouldn't object to having to play almost against anybody.
Ron's I've just put on the screen and moved past it, unfortunately. But he's made a statement about, like, obviously Dan Burn, even though I think he's probably had a couple of the best games he's had this season, centre back. And we were talking post match in Sheffield, where I had him. I think he was number 3 in my pecking order. Yeah, we all know Dan Burn is out there to, you know, as a centre half, you're there to stop goals, you're there to defend. The same as, you know, attackers, strikers are there to score goals. But unless you've got the jigsaw puzzle, the people around you that can support that, and I keep going back to working in a job where we work as a team, working especially spinal unit, doing spinal surgery. And I've said in the past, you know, there's 6 of us in a team. You take 1 out, and it increases the timeline massively. Take 2 out, and you're virtually struggling to finish the job. And it's exactly the same with a back 4 or a back 5, whichever way you work. You can pull 1, and you probably get a little bit of disjointment, but you don't get massive. You start pulling 2 and 3 away, and bring in other players in, you get complete array of stuff going on. And like I said, Fabian Shar, I don't think should have played against Sheffield United. I still think he was carrying a little bit of that hamstring from Crystal Palace, and it was evident in the first half. I think he looked lame, he looked laboured in some of his runnings, and some of his tackling was non-existent. And listening in the background to Win and the lads that were commentating on the day, you could see that, you could hear that from you guys live. So I think Big Dan Burn did amazing.
What makes it more puzzling is the fact that Eddie Howe on Emil Kraft today said Emil has played well in that central position for us, going back to Man United in the Carabao Cup. Where I thought, so if that's the case, if you've got that much faith in Emil Kraft, why risk Fabian Shar?
And that I'll tell you why. An issue. I'll tell you. But I'll tell you, I think going on that thought about playing players in different positions, he loves the variety of a player, doesn't he? You know, you look at, he often says about J7 about playing midfield. He can play left side, he can play up front. I've never seen him really play up front, if I'm honest. No. But that's another thing. And you look at the likes of Murphy. He can play right wing, he can play right midfield, or he can play right back. He loves that style. He loves that player that can fit into his way of thinking.
Versatile.
Or if he wants to bring somebody off. A versatile type player. But I always say he's a jack of all trades better than somebody who knows his game.
Right. Got Foxy in there with his new membership, which was gifted to him last night from Mighty Mark. Thank you, Mighty Mark. Thank you, Foxy. Dubravka's been tremendous for us over the years. When you consider how cheap he was, I would only move him on this summer if we're bringing an upgrade for Pope. I completely agree with you, Foxy.
100%. But the
only way you shift Dubravka for me is if you're bringing in another number one. And that makes Pope number two.
Number two. But do you think Pope's good?
If you're going to just try and get bring in another number two for Pope, you're wasting money that we haven't got, because what you're going to get for Dubravka is not going to buy you a keeper that's anywhere near in his quality.
Yeah, I agree. I think, from my point of view, has Pope been the be all and end all? No, I don't. I think he's made some mistakes, but I think if you had the two of them together and you've seen what Dubravka can do, again, I think we're blessed. I think we're blessed to have two keepers of a similar ilk. I would never be afraid to put either of them between the sticks. And I think when you've got that, and again, I go back to what Eddie said today in the press conference, Pope's going to have to work for his shirt again. I think as a keeper, that can only instill a lot more confidence in what you've done this season. So it's surely Dubravka on that should go into the next game thinking, it's my shirt until I prove otherwise.
Yeah, well, as I say, if anybody can point out, glaring errors at Dubravka, Boric, every keeper makes a couple. I mean, look at Pope. You talk about Pope coming out of his box. Look at when he got sent off against Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the second time he'd done it in the game.
Yeah.
It's all very well coming out, but if you're not going to get the ball, and every time Pope gets the ball at his feet, I shit myself, because you just don't know what he's going to do. If he's under the slightest bit pressure, it can go anywhere.
Right. Josh has put this on. Our fan base loves to have a mule to whip. And in the past, it was Maxey, then Byrne, now Longstaff. Not saying Longstaff doesn't deserve criticism, but it was not long ago that we were pleading for him.
To return from injury.
I agree, mate. I mean, like I made a comment yesterday about, we're all managers. There's probably 100,000 managers in the world, all have their own idea of what should happen and who should be taken off and who should be put on and when that should happen. But, at the end of the day, there's only one person that that counts, and that's the person who makes the decision pre, during, and post the game.
And I am very happy to leave it in his hands.
Absolutely, he's done me. To be honest with you, if I was honest, the only thing that I feel we've got a chance of losing Eddie in the summer when the Euros are over, as daft it looks. Do you not think he's worthy of an England shout with what he's done so far?
I absolutely do, yeah. But I don't think he wants it yet. I don't think that's the type of he likes working with players day in, day out. His raison d'etre is to improve players. He's on record many times as saying that. I mean, let's get it right. Let's have it right. The England job for an England manager is the absolute pinnacle. And so you'd be a fool not to want it. But I just don't think, I could be naive here, but honestly, I think even if Eddie was offered the job, I don't think he would take it. Because he likes the day-to-day business of being in with them and working with them and devising systems, and he wouldn't get that with England.
Exactly, and I think that it takes a different mentality, doesn't it? I think he's
not kind of a limelight kind of guy. It's not as though he wants to bask in the glory of being England manager and all that.
Yeah,
if he was England manager, he would want it for one reason. He'd want to win something, which would be great for us. I mean, honestly, I would love to see him. I know it sounds stupid, but I would love to see him as England manager. I think if he gave Eddie that England squad now, if he had that squad as long as Southgate's had it, we would have won 2 majors by now, comfortably.
Yeah, well, I do enter this Euros with some trepidation, I must admit. By the way, mate, because I wasn't aware of this because I wasn't on the show last night. Foxy, he wasn't aware he was gifted a membership from the Mighty Mag, and he's appreciated that.
He must have dropped out the chat before he got it then.
Yeah, exactly. So you're well. I would imagine you're more than welcome, and it was a very nice, a nice thing from Mighty Mag to do that. So thanks ever so much, guys, for supporting each other, because that's what it's all about. It's about being together and utilizing these shows to be together and talk about the club that you're so passionate about, and we all are. Have I missed anything?
No, I think
regarding the press conference, I think we've covered the main events. I mean, there was
there is just a little thing on top of that, by the way. Nobby Solano is going to take over as manager of Blythe Spartans.
Blythe, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'd heard that. I'd seen that.
That'll please Keith.
Chris
they're obviously going for the top. Just to quickly on Blythe Spartans, my brother actually owned it for 20 years until 3 months. Until 3 months ago, when he sold it, and the business consortium that took it over said it's their intention to get Spartans into the Football League.
Wow!
And he said, if that's your plan, there you go, get on with it.
Yeah, I played against Blythe Spartans back in the 80s. That just seems so bloody long ago now. Great place though. I loved it. Smashing place. Well, I think that is us done.
That wraps it up. Yep.
Yeah. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been lovely to be on the panel with Mighty Win again. I will be doing the pre-match tomorrow, starting at 1:45. I think I am, and the lads will be doing the commentary, the kick by kick, starting at 2:45. I think. No, I'm 2:45 and they're 2:45. I beg your pardon. And again, it's a pleasure to obviously have a chat with you guys. Don't forget to hit the subscribe. And if there's any questions you want to fire our way, then please feel free to do so. We will endeavour to answer them as honest as we possibly can. And obviously, if we don't answer them, then, like I say, you haven't sent the question.
Thanks
ever so much.
Just tune on me fully there. He coaches blind. Yes, wherever people are, no.
There you go. That's brilliant. See you tomorrow, guys. All the
See
best.
you
Up the
later,
tune.
boys.